Just behind my house, it took place. I could taste the salt from the perspiration running down my lips, and the late summer light was still bathing our garden in a golden glow. Holding on to the rough edge of the partially mended fence, my legs shook. His large, powerful hands probed me as though he had been waiting for this moment for years. I could feel him pushing me from behind with a heavy, demanding object. I didn't oppose. I couldn't. My underwear were dangling from one ankle, and my white sundress had already gathered around my waist. He let out a long, ravenous groan in my ear, and I said his name as if I were confessing. Inside me, I could feel every inch of him, pulsing, commanding, and memorable. I drained his tool at last, and my knees gave way. I had just betrayed my black neighbor Deshaun in the worst way I've ever done. What's worse is that I wanted more. Before I begin this honest and unvarnished confession, I would want to express my gratitude to all of the channel subscribers. This platform is maintained by your support. I also sincerely thank all of you who are new to our site or who have been viewing without subscribing. Since your click on the subscribe button is what keeps this narrative moving forward, I can't wait for you to do so. The next stories we tell are shaped by your feedback, so please don't forget to share your ideas in the comments. I read them all. And now allow me to take you back to the beginning. I'm a 37-year-old white housewife named Natalie, who lives in a quiet Montana neighborhood. Andrew, my spouse, is a decent man who is trustworthy, consistent, and a mortgage advisor who cares more about spreadsheets than he has in the last 3 months. Then there's Deshaun, who stands 6 feet 3 inches, with dark chocolate complexion and biceps that appear to extend the sleeves of clothing. He and his teenage daughter share a home. Since his wife left him years ago, I've always thought of him as the calm, attractive neighbor who often waved at me while I watered my flowers and mowed his lawn naked. Andrew kept promising to replace our fence, which had been breaking apart for weeks, but he hardly had time for dinner, let alone handyman labor. I was drinking wine on the back patio one Friday morning when I noticed Deshaun approaching. He was dressed in sleeveless, sweat-soaked clothing and old pants. I saw that the fence had been breaking apart, so he gestured for me to help replace it. I nodded, but my words became stuck in my throat. "Yes, thank you. That would be great," I said. In order to remain cool in the heat, I changed into a sundress that clung a bit closer to my hips and exposed just enough cleavage that same afternoon. However, I secretly knew I wanted attention. The first hour of work was innocent. I brought him lemonade, laughed at his dry jokes, watched the way his arms flexed with every hammer hit. I caught myself staring. He caught me too. "You all right, Natalie?" he asked, wiping his forehead. "Hot," I replied. Not sure if I meant the weather or him, maybe both. When he stood up from kneeling, our eyes locked. That moment was thick with silence. No birds, no wind, just heat. His gaze was bold, like he was undressing me right there in the open, and I let him. "I could use a break," he said. "There is shade behind the fence," I offered. "No one ever goes back there." He followed me behind the fence, out of sight from the street, the houses, the world. My heart thumped in my chest like a drum in a marching band. He stood inches from me, and I could feel his breath. He leaned in slowly. I should have backed away. I should have said no. But I did not. When our lips met, it was not gentle. It was fire. My back hit the fence. His hand slid up my thigh. My sundress lifted. No words were spoken. His tool was already hard when he pushed my panties aside. The man moved with control, like a man who knew exactly how to make a woman surrender. I felt him stretch me, thick, fulfilling every empty space I did not know I had. held onto the fence, moaning, gasping, while he pounded deeper into me with every thrust. I had never been taken like that, not even by my husband. It was raw. It was raw. It was raw. When he finally came, I felt every drop. I was shaking, soaked, and shamefully satisfied. We both stood there, breathless, no words, just heavy breathing and swollen hearts. I came home with my thighs slick with treachery, my panties shoved in my handbag. I barely slept that night, and every time I closed my eyes, I felt the fence press against my back, heard the moan, let out when Deshawn filled me, and tasted the guilt sitting heavy on my tongue. My thighs were still sore, not just from what we did, but from how much I wanted it, and worse, how much I still wanted more. Andrew came home that evening, kissed my cheek, and thanked me for reminding Deshawn about the fence. I pretended everything was fine. However, I was still feeling Deshawn, and I wanted to feel him again. I laid next to my husband, Andrew. His back was turned to me. As usual, he had fallen asleep early after dinner, too tired to notice how long I had lingered in the bathroom. I stood there for over 30 minutes, legs trembling, scrubbing myself raw under the shower, hoping I could wash the memory away. But nothing cleansed me of Deshawn. The next morning was quiet, too quiet. Andrew left for work early, dropping a kiss on my forehead. I pretended to be asleep. It was easier than lying with my eyes open. The minute the door shut behind him, I rushed to the mirror. I looked at myself, naked, flushed, still marked. There were faint bruises on my hips from where Deshawn had held me tight. My neck still had the taste of sweat and sun and shame. I made coffee, but I could not taste it. I cleaned the kitchen twice. I tried reading a magazine, but every word blurred behind the same thought. What if it happens again? I told myself it was just a one-time mistake, but my body said otherwise. By noon, I was staring out the window, watching Deshawn rake leaves near his porch, shirtless again. His skin glistened in the sunlight, like bronze dipped in oil. He caught me watching. I did not look away. And then he smiled. I knew what that smile meant. Later that afternoon, I went outside, under the excuse of checking the repaired fence. He was already there, pretending to inspect the wood. "You missed a spot, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He turned, looked at me with eyes that stripped me bare. "No," he said, "I did not miss anything, but maybe you came to see if I did." I felt my throat tighten. I wanted to say something smart, something to pretend like I had control, but I had none. He moved closer, brushed his fingers against my elbow, and I almost collapsed into him. He leaned in, whispered low, "You want to talk about what happened yesterday?" I nodded, but we did not talk. We ended up inside his garage. It was hot, dark, and smelled of oil and wood and man. He pushed the workbench aside like it was made of feathers. I sat on it without being told. My sundress lifted again, as if it remembered what happened yesterday. He knelt between my legs, and this time he kissed slowly, deeply, like he wanted to taste every inch of my guilt. When he stood up, I reached down, unzipped his jeans, and pulled out the very thing that ruined me the day before. It was thick, black, dainty, powerful. I wrapped my hand around it and lowered my mouth, slowly, watching him bite his lip. I drained him until his hands clenched my hair, until he gasped my name like it was the only word he remembered. And when he came, I swallowed it all. The shame returned the second I wiped my lips and stood. "Natalie," he whispered, breathing hard. "What are we doing?" I could not answer. I just kissed him once and left. That evening, Andrew came home early. He brought flowers, tulips, my favorite. Guilt hit me like a brick to the chest. I thought we could go out this weekend, he said. Just us, maybe rekindle a little fire. I smiled, lied, told him that sounded wonderful. Later that night, we made love. Or at least he tried. He was gentle, too gentle. He barely lasted 5 minutes. He asked if I came. I lied again, said I did, kissed him, rolled over, and cried silently into my pillow. Because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I was no longer making love to my husband. I was comparing him to my neighbor, and Andrew never stood a chance. The next day, I avoided Deshaun. I knew if I saw him again, I would cave. I focused on chores, folded laundry that was already folded, ironed clothes that did not need it. I scrubbed the kitchen floor until my knees ached, but the more I resisted, the stronger the pull became. And then just when I thought I had survived the day, there was a knock at the back door. I opened it, and there he was, shirtless again. "You left this on my porch," he said, holding up a pink lace thong. I had not even realized I lost it. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, closed the door behind him. I backed away, but my body betrayed me. When he kissed me, I melted, again. After that, it was not just a mistake. It was a pattern, a secret, a second life. One day at a time, I sank deeper into the affair. My bed belonged to Andrew, but my body, my craving belonged to Deshaun. And for every moment I spent wrapped in his arms, the guilt thickened in my chest like tar. I knew it was only a matter of time before the truth shattered everything, because secrets this dirty never stay buried. It was a Tuesday morning, quiet, ordinary, the kind of day no one expects will end in disaster. Andrew had kissed me goodbye, just like always, but this time, something about it felt different, like he knew something. Or maybe I was just paranoid, because by then I had become a professional liar. Every smile was fake. Every dinner I served, every kiss goodnight, every moan in bed, all of it was wrapped in deceit. My real passion lived across the fence, under my skin, and in my soaked panties. Every time I saw Deshaun outside, I told myself it was just sex, that it meant nothing, that I still loved my husband. But that was the worst lie of all. It was around noon when I heard the soft knock on the kitchen door, the knock that had become familiar, the knock that woke up every nerve in my body. I opened the door and found Deshaun standing there. No smile, no tease, just a serious look on his face. "We need to talk," he said. I stepped aside. He walked in and stood near the sink, rubbing his palms together, like he was nervous. I had never seen him that way. "I cannot keep doing this, Natalie," he said. "You are married. This is wrong. I should have nodded. I should have agreed. I should have right there. But instead, I stepped closer and whispered, 'Then why does it feel so right?' He grabbed me and kissed me hard, like he was angry at himself for needing me. My back slammed against the refrigerator. My fingers tore at his belt. I moaned as he slid inside me, deep, raw, unforgiving. There in my kitchen, on the floor, with the curtains open, it was the filthiest, most reckless thing we had ever done, and I loved every second of it. Ick saft as woods. I laid on the cold tile, still half naked, panting, legs trembling. He pulled his pants back up and said, "This has to be the last time. I mean it, but I knew he would come back, and I knew I would let him in." We were past the point of no return. That evening, Andrew came home with a strange look in his eyes. Not angry, not suspicious, just cold. He asked, "Did anything interesting happen today?" I froze for a second, then shook my head. No. Just chores. He nodded, eyes still locked on mine. He said slowly, Natalie, do you remember the security cameras that I installed last year when we thought someone was stealing packages? I checked the footage today and just wanted to test them, he said. There was silence, so he asked, would you mind explaining why your neighbor was in our kitchen for more than an hour? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. He stood up and walked to the living room. When he returned, he had a flash drive in. His hand. I saw everything, he said. Everything. I could not breathe. My knees buckled. I dropped to the floor and cried. I am sorry, I whispered. I never meant to. He cut me off. You did it more than once. Do not insult me with sorry. I reached for his hand, but he stepped back. I want a divorce. The days that followed were a blur. Papers, lawyers, silent dinners, cold nights. He moved into the guest room. Eventually, he stopped talking to me completely. Deshaun? He vanished. He stopped coming to his porch. His garage stayed locked. His house went dark. He had gotten what he wanted and left me when I'm ruins. Andrew moved out, just like that. I lost everything. My marriage, my dignity, and the only man who ever truly loved me. All because I could not resist what was forbidden, because I let lust blind me, because I drained more than Deshaun's tool. I drained my own life. Now, I sit alone in this quiet house. Every creak in the floorboard reminds me of the love I destroyed. Every glance at the fence reminds me the man who ruined me and the woman I let myself become. And if I could go back, would I do it all over again? That is the hardest part. I still do not know the answer.